so that was a lot to absorb. You got the 15-minute primer on what's going on campus. You'll be hearing much more about the details of the kinds of things that President Bollinger was talking about, how we're involved internationally, what's going on with Manhattanville, the exciting intellectual things that are going on campus, the amazing architecture that's there. And just, you know, it reminds me just what an incredible opportunity we had as students at Columbia and how the university is really growing and going forward. Before I go any further, I just want to thank the Columbia Alumni Association, Donna McPhee, and the wonderful staff. They have been working 24/7 to make sure that everything runs smoothly for us today. So can we just thank them? As President Bollinger was saying, we are leaders. Columbia is a leader in the world, global leadership. And as alumni, you are leaders in your own fields, benefiting from the wonderful Columbia education. And we want today to be able to bring those links together, to link you into the world of Columbia, to use you to take Columbia farther into the world beyond the campus, and just to solidify those relationships. You know, I feel very privileged to be a part of this wonderful alumni body at Columbia. I went to the journalism school. I began to get involved in volunteer ways and working with the Alumni Association. And Irina Stern is here. Irina, where are you? Stand up. Irina is our wonderful staff person there. And Irina and Nick and some of the development office people sort of roped me in slowly but surely. And, you know, and I just have to say, I love every minute of what I'm doing there with the CAA as a trustee, really getting a chance to have an insider's view of what's going on. And this first panel is going to give you a deeper understanding of what it means to be a leader within the university, within the administration, as well as what alumni are doing, and to really look at their perspective, what the challenges are, what role alumni play. So let me just introduce our panelists to you. Claude Steele is the 21st Provost of Columbia University, as well as a professor of psychology and a leader in the field of social psychology. His most recent book, Whistling Vivaldi, and Other Clues to How Stereotypes Affect Us and What We Can Do, was published in 2010. I recommend it to all of you. There's some really great stories. He makes all of these issues of race and ethnicity really interesting and really compelling. The story of Whistling Vivaldi, you can see him on C-SPAN. You just type his name in and you go to C-SPAN books and you can see his speech. Michele Moody-Adams is an ethicist known for work on moral relativism and moral objectivity, Dean of Columbia College and Vice President for Undergraduate Education. And you know, I'm from Indiana, you don't know that, but anyway, when I first met Michele, I learned that she had lived in Bloomington, so I felt an immediate connection. And Fred Van Sickle is our new Executive Vice President for the University Development and Alumni Relations. He came to Columbia in 2002 to help lead our efforts in reaching out to alumni worldwide, and he is leading that incredible $5 billion Columbia campaign effort. So I'm going to take my seat with them, but I'd just like to get started and let Claude tell us, from your point of view, as the university's chief academic officer, what are the biggest leadership areas and challenges for Columbia today?
Thank you. One thing I just begin by saying, I'm relatively new to Columbia. This is the middle of my second year, but I feel like I've come at a particularly fortunate and exciting time. It's like getting on a train that's really going in a very interesting journey. And so it's an exciting day-by-day experience, and I will wind up just sort of amplifying many of the things that President Bollinger just told you about, but I can tell you down on the ground it is really an exciting, and I feel privileged position to be in to help this train move along. I would like to just touch on a number of themes, our expansion, what's going on in our sciences, which that set of issues has tended to dominate my work and thinking, And a few words about globalization and diversity, if I can get to all those issues in 5 minutes or 7 minutes, I guess is the challenge. With the sciences, you have to begin with the great opportunity of the expansion of Columbia University. There's the issue of the great achievement of our acquiring Manhattanville, the Manhattanville space, and beginning to build buildings on Manhattanville. This, as Lee just mentioned, is 18 acres of land. It's as big a plot as the Morningside campus itself is, and hundreds of thousands, millions of square feet, new square feet, will be added to our university. And the new space, of course, opens up the opportunity to reuse and reconfigure the existing space, and so that you can just begin to see that this expansion really reconfigures Columbia. It gives us an opportunity to really reconfigure Columbia and take on some really exciting opportunities and chances. In the area of science, science is perhaps among the various fields, if you think of humanities and social sciences and the natural sciences, science and engineering are perhaps the most space-dependent academic endeavors. And so they are really at the center of the first wave of development in this expansion, this academic expansion that's taking place at Columbia. As Lee mentioned, and the way I think of it is there are two buildings we have that really open up new space, and as I also mentioned, the opening up of that new space and the moving of some faculty into that new space opens up old space for rethinking. But the two buildings, one is already up to great distinction and great acclaim, the Northwest Corner building, the Rafael Mineo building that Lee just described. It's a 13-story science building with labs, and on the top, I think, 11 floors. The first 2 floors have classrooms, a library, and a magnificent cafe, if you're ever in the area. It's a great place to visit. This gives us a chance to, I think, revive and rejuvenate our sciences. Traditionally, Columbia has been a great science university. We have as many Nobel Prize winners in the sciences, physics, chemistry, and biology as any university throughout the 20th century. But in the past decades, it's been those areas that have been more restricted by lack of space. And so these buildings give us a chance to rejuvenate that tradition, and we're all very excited about it. And I think one concrete way to think about it is it gives us a chance to improve the rankings of our science departments. They're very distinguished departments, and they're very well ranked, but we would like to bring them all into the top 5 if we possibly can. That is a real institutional goal with regard to the space and the future of the sciences at Columbia. In that respect, I think there are 2 ways of thinking about this. The Northwest Corner building offers us an opportunity to simply expand the science departments and give them some of the space that they haven't had, and to hire new scientists and to develop real foci of interest there that strengthen the departments. But it also gives us a chance to explore the possibilities of interdisciplinary science. Many of the cutting-edge issues in science are now addressed by teams of scientists who come from different disciplines: chemists, physicists, engineers, biologists, all working on the same problem with labs next door to each other and postdocs of different trainings within labs and so on. So we're trying to, in the Northwest Corner building, give that kind of science an opportunity to develop and take root in the institution. Then, as we move into Manhattanville, the first building that will open, and this is a particularly exciting focus for Columbia because we're so strong in neuroscience. The Mind, Brain, and Behavior building will be probably the biggest neuroscience research building in the nation or in the world. There are room for 70 scientists there. They will cover the range of neuroscientists, from those who look at neuroscience phenomenon at the cell level all the way to the behavioral level. So on one end you'll have cell biologists, on the other end you'll have psychologists, economists, political scientists, all who are beginning to explore the relationship between, in particular, the brain and mental activity of all sorts. We now have this capacity to image and observe brain activity as it corresponds to mental activity. And bringing that range of scientists together in a single building, we're excited to imagine will be a very yeasty kind of scientific environment. So it's with that building that we will open Manhattanville and have the highest hopes for it. Again, racing through my 5 minutes.
Right.
I can begin to feel your nerves here.
5 seconds.
Globalization, Lee did a great job of describing the approach we're taking to globalization of the university. It's important to say not every university in the country, especially our publics, they really don't have the opportunity to pursue this in quite the same way that our private institutions do. We're all looking for the right way to configure this effort. Do you build a whole campus abroad? Do you put an executive training program abroad? I'm particularly proud of the idea that we have developed here of putting a network of global centers around the world, because I think it gives us a special capacity to work with those regions in developing the issues and the content that those centers will focus on. It really, in the era as this effort begins, it really sets up a great dialogue between Columbia University and the regions of the world where the centers are. And so I hope this will give our centers a especially good rooting in those areas. And then as time goes on, and we hope faster rather than slower, it will begin to offer a lot of opportunities to, certainly for faculty scholarship and research, but also for our students to be in a region of the world as they study the material that's relevant to that region of the world. As everyone knows, that can be a life-changing kind of an experience. So we're especially proud of this idea and working it along as best we can at this point. Well, okay. I'd better stop. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Claude. You know, I hate to sort of keep saying the same word over and over again, but excited is the way that I feel when I hear about all these things. I hope you share that word. Lee mentioned it as well, but I just think that that's really what you're going to feel by the end of the day. I hope that these comments make you really want to visit campus. You have to see that new building at the northwest corner and take a visit up to Manhattanville and get a sense of what's going on. So, Michele, as dean of the college, you are dean of a school that is one of the most sought after places. I think I was reading yesterday, only 7% of the
6.5 in the college.
Okay,
6.9 overall.
Right.
Percent.
So this is a place people want to go. All the things that Claude is talking about, tell us where we're going to be leaders. How are you developing leaders within the college? What are some of the challenges? What are some of the initiatives?
Well, the college has long been known for its academic leadership in ways that we're all very proud of, particularly the storied core curriculum, which preserves the best of the Western tradition and now invites students to engage also with the world around them in the global dimension. But we are also now becoming particularly strong at blending the best of academic traditions with the most promising intellectual innovations. And in fact, we really are extraordinary leaders in this area. And I focused my comments on 3 specific kinds of innovations that I think we are doing best at. The first will, I hope, come as no surprise to all of you in this room, that as the world gets more complicated, some of the boundaries between disciplines need to be broken down more often than we might expect. Disciplines are wonderful, but some things that happen in the areas between the disciplines are important too. And at the college, we're developing a number of interdisciplinary academic programs that really allow our students to study at the forefront of change in the academy. One example is a new major in sustainable development. It's really quite extraordinary. I think we were the first of all the top research institutions to develop such a major that brings together sociology, economics, engineering, as well as biology, chemistry, physics, to prepare students who want to go out into the world and encourage change in several areas that will also bring about change without doing harm to the world. That's really the kind of mission of the Sustainable Development Program, and it really is quite an extraordinary offering. Another area in which we've been encouraging that interdisciplinary work is in work we allow undergraduates to do now with some of our professional schools on campus. These are extraordinary, important resources for our students. I think one of the reasons we're so popular with so many students is that we can offer these kinds of opportunities. For instance, we now allow majors in the college in any subject to supplement the major with what we call a special concentration, the equivalent elsewhere of a minor, in business management. And this is not an excessive or extraordinary departure from the value of the liberal arts education that we continue to celebrate, because we still require the core curriculum, we require all the conventional visions of a major, but we say to students, if you think you want to go out into the world of business, we can give you the opportunity for a little preparation in advance of that. It's really a wonderful minor, and it actually incorporates courses from economics along with courses in the business school. Several other programs are planned with public health and with the law school, but they're still in progress. I don't have all the details there. Secondly, we've got some wonderful new initiatives in science, and I am perhaps myself especially proud of where we're going with this. The college has long been known, rightly so, for its strength in the humanities and the social sciences, and as a humanist, I continue to celebrate the importance of those areas. But we know that in the 21st century, a person can't be a responsible citizen unless he or she has some appreciation for methods of argument and ideas in the sciences. Obviously, some students will come wanting to major in the sciences, and so we're doing a lot more to attract and retain strong science-interested students with new research opportunities in the sciences, some of them year-long, academic year-long opportunities, some in the summer. We have designed curricular changes to accompany these research opportunities, so we give students seminars that prepare them for the research, and we're even rethinking some of our introductory large science courses to make sure that everybody who comes in interested in science, if they wish to continue, can in fact find their place in the discipline. Even in the core curriculum, and I think this is especially exciting, we continue to develop a pilot course that was developed 6 years ago now called Frontiers of Science, that gives every incoming student in the college the opportunity to study methods of argument, ways of reasoning, even notions of scientific risk and evidence, to understand when they leave Columbia how important it is to have some scientific literacy, and we're really quite proud of that. And then the third area links up with many things you've heard this morning from President Bollinger and also from Provost Steele. It's in the area of global initiatives. Not everybody appreciates that even with a core curriculum, with a very demanding set of requirements, 25% of our undergraduates go to study abroad. That number might be getting larger, but for us, that's extraordinary. And so it's important to keep our study abroad programs strong. One of the things we're doing is encouraging faculty to consider both new kinds of study abroad models. So some models of study abroad are a year-long, semester-long program, but perhaps students can profit from 2 weeks or 4 weeks or 6 weeks abroad, taking part in some kind of academic enterprise along the way. We're also encouraging faculty to develop programs that work with the global centers. That sustainable development major I mentioned, Professor Kevin Griffin is developing a course that will take students away to the program in Amman. I think it's for about 6 weeks to do some work in forests and farmland there on sustainable development questions. So we're really quite proud of that. And then one final fact about the core, in addition to a new way of thinking about science in the core, there is now a global core requirement, a 2-course requirement. Students have to study some dimension of thought or action or practice or political life in a non-Western context, whether it's comparative or in an individual culture. And with the help of some of our most generous alums, we've been able to offer faculty some course development opportunities for summer workshops to refine or rethink courses they're teaching or introduce new global dimensions in what they do. And so there's a lot going on in all the areas that we've heard are important. In a campus-wide way, the college is really participating as a leader, and we should all be very proud.
Thank you. So thank you very much, Dean Moody-Adams, and we will hear more from her later. She'll be moderating a panel with students, so we're going to drill down even more deeply, so thank you very much. So Fred, you spend a lot of your time building relationships. I would say your whole life almost is talking with alumni, and of course the money that is being raised helps us become a leader, helps us develop initiatives. Talk to us a little bit about how leadership, how alumni can be leaders and participate with you.
Well, we think that alumni engagement really is an essential ingredient of the momentum at the university. And this really begins when Lee actually did his inaugural address. He talked about the need for Columbia to be much more accessible to its alumni and have more meaningful and important connections. So we work very, very hard at that and see you all as being an essential part of all that we do in a whole range of ways. Actually, I want to mention I was with Lee and others here in Istanbul just a couple of weeks ago, which is a perfect example of the impact of alumni in so many ways. One of the main reasons why we're going to have a center in Istanbul is that a group of alumni decided that we want to have a global center here. And so through their energy and their time and their money, that's going to happen. That's just one tangible example of that. I think there are a number of ways. One is that alumni leadership is so key to the university, and we actually see examples of that here today. Lee is an alumnus. We have 24 trustees. Alelia is one of them. They're all alumni, and their passion and their commitment is essential also to driving the university's agenda. And then, of course, we have 270,000 alumni that we can keep track of around the world, and thousands of them are alumni and give to the university, and that's just a huge thing for us. I do want to mention in the campaign where we've had a lot of success so far over that time period, 1/3 of all of our alumni have given to Columbia in that time, and that's a huge thing for us and something we're continuing to work on. And those gifts that folks give fuel all the projects that you talk about here, the Manhattanville, the curriculum, financial aid, science, and on and on. And Columbia really is committed to this kind of engagement, and there are lots of tangible examples. The creation of the Columbia Alumni Association about 6 years ago, the creation of our first alumni center on campus on 113th Street, and I hope when you're in New York, you'll come visit us. We have an alumni welcome center. We're very proud of that. And also, we work really hard around the world with our alumni. We have 80 alumni groups around the world. 20 of those have been created in the last 5 to 6 years. And interestingly, 15 of those 20 new ones are in international locations. So again, the engagement in a new way really spans the globe. We also work hard on programming and social networks, and work hard to do what we can to highlight our faculty and our alumni and their accomplishments and connect those with alumni. We have so many people we're proud of. I mean, being in Washington, D.C. with President Obama and Attorney General Holder, and then examples like today where we have distinguished alumni on our program, or whether we're in Sundance and highlighting filmmakers. We take great pride in the accomplishments of the members of the community. So we actively seek to build this network, and there are lots of ways that people can be involved. And I think probably all of you are in one way or another, whether it's helping us build career services around the campus, law alumni offering summer jobs to lawyers, law students, for instance, interviewing prospective students, helping us, even today with the Columbia Community Outreach, there are, I guess, 19 cities around the country, the world, where alumni are doing sort of service projects under the guise of the Columbia Alumni Association. So we really welcome your involvement, and we see this really as a work in progress. We think we've made great progress over this last decade, but we know there's a lot more that we can do and should do, and that we can be more effective. We can certainly be more effective with your help and your involvement and your advice, and we encourage that, and we're very glad you're here today.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Fred. You know, because I know everyone can't absorb everything that's being said today, I just want to remind you that we have fantastic websites, and I think Stella was going to put that up. So columbia.edu, I hope all of you will visit. And David Stone, who's our Vice President for Communications, is here. David, where are you? Is David in the room? David's probably doing some work. He's probably responding to ROTC questions. But you just so you know, I mean, our website has just been redesigned. It's really fantastic, easy to navigate. There was just a webcast on the Japanese earthquake and tsunami, which Claude moderated, right? 1,000 people, 1,000 alumni tuned in. Right. So go to the website often and you can see what's going on. And then I think we also may have a slide with another one of the Columbia publications, Columbia Magazine. So I just wanted to make sure that you know about that. Right, put it in your, take out your iPhones and write in the website. But turn off your phones. I mean, don't have them ring. Don't have them ring, but you can make a note or write it down on a piece of paper the old-fashioned way. But I just want to make sure that you're aware of that. Now, we have time for a couple of questions, and we have microphones on either end. So if you don't mind going to the microphone since it's being taped, would you indulge us, please? And if anyone else has a question, maybe go to the lineup at the microphone. We appreciate that.
Andy Biash, Columbia College, 54.
54?
54.
Okay.
Getting on an age. I was in ROTC at Columbia, not to beat a dead horse here, but I would like to know, and I was also played basketball and baseball, so I was a little discouraged, Al Butts, about some of our athletic ability over the years. But I'm real proud of, without our new athletic director, I really am. She's doing a great job. Getting back to NROTC, I heard about the president talking about debate. Now, I seem to remember that President Obama and Mr. McCain, Senator McCain, at Columbia, debated services to the country, all right? And both agreed that NROTC should be back on campus. Both agreed. Remember, McCain brought it up, then President, before President Obama, of course he was not president then, he was campaigning, agreed with Senator McCain. So I'd like to see the debate end.
Okay. Well, thank you. Who should do that?
Well, I think it has ended.
Right. Yeah. I think the vote happened yesterday.
Maybe Lee actually, from all I hear, I couldn't be there myself, but Lee actually did a great job, I think, of managing that debate. And you may have something to add to it, but my impression is that now we have had a good process about that. I did moderate an earlier debate of faculty and graduate students, and that was the third of 3. So I think all sectors of the community have had a chance to think about this and develop their thinking about it. I'm sort of proud of it, again, as a relative newcomer. I like this tradition of debate. I think people learn a lot from each other by hearing each other talk about things that they really care about. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it's really something you can think of as just window dressing. I think it's intrinsic to what a university does, is to be a place, a forum for that kind of exploration of issues. And I think we gave it about the right amount of time, and yesterday's vote in the Senate, I think, for the community brings this to a handsome end. Mm-hmm.
I think that this is an environment, really, where you can't do things by fiat, and I just think it would have been uncomfortable for everybody. But now the voices have all been heard, and the atmosphere on campus has changed a lot. There are some incredible veterans who are students there, who are, you know, interacting every day, and
Yes.
we've had a chance to hear from some of them. I think you know, the mood on campus among students is welcoming for the most part, and it's really different from 1968. So, but it did have to go through a process, I think. I think if Lee had just said, this is this way or this is that way, it really wouldn't have been very, you know, it just wouldn't have worked. I mean, you know, as Lee says, the president can't just tell people what to do. You have to let people sort of talk about it and figure it out. And I think that it did happen in a very positive way. Other questions? Yes.
Hi, I'm Natalie Blackburn. I'm a prospective student for Mailman School of Public Health.
There are a number of prospective students and recently admitted, so I'm really welcome to all of you.
I just had a question. You talked a lot about the international effort, global efforts, the different campuses. Can you talk a little bit more about the relationship with New Yorkers and sort of efforts being made to interact with the community? I know you said there's a community day, volunteer day. Maybe touch on efforts made recently to sort of expand on that and work in the city. So.
Well, yes, Michele.
I'm sure that others will add to what I say, but there is a very active engagement on the part of students, faculty, and staff at Columbia with the surrounding community. Just to give you one example, there's a program called Community Impact, which gives hundreds, almost 1,000, I think, students the opportunity over a given year to volunteer in the community, to do work that also has a connection to the academic program as well, in a way that I think we're all very proud of. And there are many other initiatives, some of them coming from the professional schools as well, that connect our Columbia community members with the larger community. I think we can all be proud. So this one day that's going on now is only an instance of something that happens all year round.
Right. Claude or Fred, do you have anything?
I would just mention, I know that there are, the dentistry school has clinics where they provide services in the community. The law school has clinics where they provide service. In the Manhattanville project, we have a connection to a city school that focuses on science, and it's not our school, but the science faculty, I think, is very involved in the curricular development of making that a unique educational experience, and I think the list could go on and on.
Yeah.
I would add one more specifically college program called Double Discovery, which connects Columbia College undergrads with high school students, well, actually middle and high school students in the city in programs. They come every week for tutoring, for mentoring, and then we see them through to the application process for college. So there's a lot going on. It's a great question.
And you can see more on the website as well. Don't forget that website. And with Manhattanville, there's a very formalized community benefits agreement where Columbia has committed millions of dollars to community initiatives that will be rolled out as Manhattanville is continuing to be developed. There are also programs where people in the community are employed during the construction phase of Manhattanville. So there are lots and lots of things going on. We can do one more question.
I think that's me.
Okay, great.
I'm Deborah Sanders, class of 91, the business school. You may have just answered my question because it's related to the previous question. I live in Harlem, and I know that there has been, with the development of the expansion, some tension between the school and the community over the years. And so I was going to ask, how did you make peace with Community Board 9? But I think I'm hearing some of the answers, but it would be interesting to know some of the details behind the funding that you just mentioned for programs in the community. What are some of the things that are going to be rolling out over the next couple of years?
Right. Well, and the others can say something too, but there's a West Harlem Development Corporation, like the Harlem Development Corporation, that is working very closely with our Office of Government Affairs. So and we have a wonderful Vice President of Government Affairs, Maxine Griffith, who's from Harlem originally, who, there are all the other people in the administration who are working, but Maxine has a personal connection, and the ULERP process, which makes Lee's nerves go. It's a very complicated, very political process. we were able to negotiate our way through that in a very wonderful way, and everybody held their breath, but it worked. And I think it's because people understand that Columbia is one of the largest employers of people in that part of Manhattan, and really dedicated to being a good partner. Anybody else?
You said it all.
Okay. All right, so Fred, Michele, Claude, closing thoughts?
Well, this may sound self-serving, and I'll explain why it isn't in a minute, but I do think, as you're thinking about your alma mater, that you're allowed to think now that we're in an especially good period of leadership. I think Columbia has been, and the reason it's not so self-serving because I'm new to this administration. I can't take the kind of credit for it I'd like to, but I do think over this last decade especially, Columbia has moved into an era where its leadership has been innovative, insightful, courageous. It's taken on some of the real major challenges that higher education in general faces. I think it's come up with some of the more innovative and substantive solutions to problems that higher education faces, and that Columbia itself faces as a university. So I think it is an era where Columbia has repositioned itself as a major leader in higher education, doing some of the more adventuresome things, I think, of any of our peers. The expansion itself and the academic expansion that goes with that, I think, is a good example. But we're in a period of good leadership, and it's a time for the whole community to rally to that fact.
Okay.
I'd want to say that the framework for all the things I talked about earlier, all the curricular innovations, is our leadership in the area of access. And this lets us do two things. It lets us bring what is the most diverse class of undergraduates to a great institution called Columbia College. And as we bring the most diverse, they are also some of the strongest. I heard just on the way here for this event that the average SAT score of the most diverse class in Columbia's history has just gone up 6 points. It's the highest ever in our history. So diversity, quality, it's all rooted in access, and I'm very proud of us for that.
And I just reiterate, we just welcome your participation and invite your feedback and coming to events and sharing your resources and your time with the university. You're really important to us, and we hope that you share our pride in all that's happening at Columbia.
Thank you. So, as they would say, and there's more. We are going to hear from some of the leading experts on healthcare and public health after the break. I would like to see everybody back here at 10:58. Not 11, but 10:58, so we can get started promptly at 11. Thank you so much.